welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a little while since I did a video, and today I have something kind of special for me, at least. Tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of my third spinal fusion surgery. I wanted to make a video because the surgery that I had didn't go as I had planned. After I had the surgery, the recovery was very traumatic, and pretty much from the moment that I woke up until I got to go home, it was traumatic. And this was a surgery that I thought was going to be very, very easy. I had elected to have the easier surgery. I need to go back and explain why I had this spinal fusion done. When I was 15 years old, I had severe scoliosis. We weren't able to fix it with physical therapy or brace, so I needed to have surgery. After I had woken up from my first spinal fusion, I was still very crooked, and if you know anything about scoliosis, it kind of deforms your body, and my right hip stuck out. My shoulders were very uneven, and when I bent over, I had a hump on my back. When I woke up from the first spinal fusion surgery, they fused me from T11 to L2. That's only a couple of joints in your back. And I woke up from that surgery and I was still crooked, and I was in a lot of pain. And while I was actually in the hospital about to go home, I got my first back brace. They were molded to my body, but I left the hospital from my first spinal fusion in a plastic back brace. And you can tell from the mold that I was still crooked, and I was in a lot of pain. And unfortunately, my doctor didn't fuse me enough, so he made a mistake. I had to go through another spinal fusion surgery a year later. I'm fused from T11 to L3 now. So that's kind of where my spine history began. A couple of years ago, I started having really, really bad chronic back pain, and I knew I had scoliosis, and I knew that I had a bad back, but I didn't know that I was walking around with a bilateral fracture in my L5-S1 joint. So that is called a bilateral pars defect. When I found this out, I was told that the only way to fix it is with another spinal fusion surgery. And at the time, I was going through a lot with my fibrous dysplasia leg, having surgeries for that, so I couldn't really focus on my back, and it wasn't extreme yet to the point where I felt that we needed to intervene and start doing something else. 2.5 to 3 years ago, I would say, my back pain started to get even worse. I started to see a pain management doctor who we arranged multiple different treatments for me, from steroid injections, burning the nerves, or blocking the nerves. I went through a lot of procedures. Pretty much every injection that you can possibly get in your spine I had done, and most of them were unsuccessful. When I had the radio frequency ablations, which is called an RFA, where they burn the nerves around your joints, after I did that procedure and my back pain continued to get worse, I had to make the decision to have surgery. It came a lot faster than I thought it would, and it was extremely scary and hard to process. I saw a couple of different doctors, and I ended up finding one that I really liked. Because I'm already fused, we had to make the decision whether we were just going to fuse the one that was fractured on both sides, which is my L5-S1 joint, which is the very last vertebrae in your spine. Do we fuse just the one, or do we fuse you all the way down and connect your current fusion with the new fusion? Because of my age, I was 28 at the time. I had just turned 28 when I had the surgery. Because I was young, my doctor thought that it would be best if we just did the one vertebrae. So instead of connecting my fusions and going through a really difficult surgery, we elected to have the smaller surgery. In preparation for this, I was told that I would go home after a couple of days, that it would be an easy surgery compared to the other one, and I would recover from it faster. I had a lot of faith that that was how my recovery was going to go. It did not go like that. Let me just say that. So what the doctors actually did and what was wrong with my spine was my L5-S1 joint is fractured on both sides. I had seen a couple of other doctors that said, no, you don't need to have surgery on it. There's nothing wrong. But when my doctors actually got in there, my vertebrae was rattling. It was not even in place anymore. The fusion definitely needed to happen. I used plastic rods and then metal for the screws, I think. I don't quite understand the plastic/metal thing. From the moment that I woke up from the surgery, things just started to go really wrong. And it started with me getting out of surgery, and the recovery team, they didn't have a room for me in the hospital yet. I was waiting to be transferred to a regular hospital room. The recovery staff did not know how to handle my kind of surgery. I woke up in a significant amount of pain, and I don't think the doctors were expecting that. I was crying because they had me on this recovery bed, and the recovery bed versus your actual hospital bed are two totally different stories. The recovery bed that you go on after you have surgery is so uncomfortable, and I think I got out of surgery between 1 and 2 in the afternoon. I know that it had been in early afternoon because my surgery was very early in the morning. They did not have a room for me until I think 1 or 2 in the morning. And they kept me on this hospital recovery gurney instead of giving me a normal hospital bed. I was in a lot of pain and crying, and I was trying to explain to these people I need a normal bed. I had just had spine surgery, and sometimes I felt like I needed to be elevated or sometimes laying back, and I asked the nurses if they could elevate me a little bit. They elevated me too fast and then dropped. So they elevated me and I said, oh, no, that's too much. And then they dropped the head of the bed. And my back hurt so bad after that. And it was swollen. I was crying hysterically. My mom, I think, had stepped out to go make a phone call or get a glass of water or something. And when she came back, I was hysterical. Max was very upset. And I ended up saying to the nurse, I'm sorry, I know it's not your fault. And then she said, yeah, me too, I wouldn't feel bad about it. I forgot what she said, but she said something along the lines of that she wasn't going to feel bad about dropping my bed because it wasn't her fault. And we just all got so upset. They kept me on that gurney for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I think I was maybe in the hospital bed for an hour and a half before they transferred me to my room at 1 or 2 in the morning. And because I was in so much pain and they could have just gotten me a normal bed, they just kept giving me extremely strong medications through my IV. I was getting Dilaudid, morphine, pretty much anything, and the nurses would just continue giving it to me, and instead of taking care of the problem, which would have been really easy, just get me a hospital bed. So they kept trying to control my pain with these terrible medications that by the time I got into the hospital room finally and had my own room, I actually started to almost OD. I started vomiting, and my face got all red, and it was horrible. Yeah, pretty much from when I woke up till the time that I got into my room, it was terrible. You know, like, I knew that it was going to be hard. I knew that, you know, this was a spine surgery, but I wasn't expecting it to be as hard as my first 2 spinal fusions, which were a lot more in depth because they were bigger fusion. It was to correct scoliosis. So those are big surgeries. I knew that it was going to be hard, but I didn't expect it to be that hard. So when they tried getting me up out of bed, I had to learn how to get up again and learn how to walk again and learn how to sit up again and everything. I was having such a hard time that everybody started recommending to me that I go to a residential facility to get stronger because I wasn't improving at the rate that I should have been. I was still a significant amount of pain, and it was just terrible. They ended up transferring me a little under a week, so I spent under a week at the hospital, and then they transferred me to the residential facility. I stayed there for almost 3 weeks, I believe. I had a lot of trauma. When I first came into there, they wouldn't give me my anxiety medications. They wouldn't give me the right dose of my sleeping medications, which I had been on for quite some time. Some of the nurses looked at me like I could do things just because I was young. So because I was young, they assumed that my surgery was less invasive than the older people that I was surrounded with, because I was surrounded by old people pretty much. There was one other person that was like on the younger side. Like, we barely got to speak to each other. You only really see the other people if you have like a small group together, which is like you just live. There was like a weights group, so like I got to lift a 1 pound weight, you know, with this guy, and he was nice. He also said to me, you know, like, it's really nice to see another young person in here. So this particular nurse that was giving me a hard time came into my room. Oh, I was sharing a room with like a 92-year-old woman, and I had been there for a couple of days, and the nurse came in and she asked me, why aren't you dressed yet? And I said, because I don't know, because you guys, I have an alarm on my bed and I haven't gotten dressed by myself. I can hardly get on the toilet by myself. She seemed mad at me, like I couldn't dress myself. So she left. I literally tried to get out of my bed, but sit at the edge of the bed, and she had put my clothes on my bed, like sitting there, and I tried. I almost tried to put my clothes on. I ended up crying, and my mom ended up having to complain. Once I had been there for, you know, a longer period of time, this woman started to understand what I've been through, how much I've been through, and the surgeries that I've had. She ended up talking to me about her flower garden and, you know, all kinds of things. She definitely did not make my stay easy when I first got to the residential facility, but by the time that I left, I loved the nurses and talked to them about makeup and were so sweet. I just think that I was kind of judged because I'm younger. And then when I was finally able to go home, that was such a great day. It had almost been a month. I was not expecting that. I was not expecting to go through that much with this surgery. So I went through a lot of trauma, and the last year has been really difficult for me because my pain didn't get better. I actually feel like it got worse, but I needed to have the surgery. Now I am waiting to get the spinal stimulator, and I will be getting that on September 6th. It's a long time from now, like 3 months, but that was the only date that I could get. So they have me on a waiting list, and hopefully, you know, I will be able to have the stimulator surgery, but I gotta, you know, recover from that. In the meantime, I'm back on morphine, and, you know, I take my Percocet, and it's hard. I wanted to make this video because it was such a traumatic experience for me that I've kind of blocked a lot of it out, because I was in this like terrible place the entire time that I had that surgery. Like a terrible place mentally. I was not well. And, you know, coming home and having to deal with that, you know, it was hard, and the last year's been hard because I had to recover from that, and my pain wasn't better, and having to go on morphine, and, you know, not being able to do nearly as much as I used to. It's been really hard. I've had to grieve quite a lot of things, and I don't think people understand how much I've lost because of my health. I wanted to make this video because I needed some closure, you know, give myself some time to talk about it and share it and be vulnerable, realize that, you know, I got through it, and here I am a year later. I'm not where I thought I would be, but I'm excited for when I can have more of my independence back, when I get this spinal stimulator and I recover from that. I'm really, really, really excited that I'll be able to just get off of the morphine and just have a little bit more of my life back. You know, I spend so much time in this room and so much time alone. It's hard. The stimulator is going to give me, you know, some of that freedom back, so I'm really happy about that. Yeah, it's 1 year, and I'm saying this to myself. You are a warrior, girl. You are a warrior. I just gotta give myself credit for going through what I did and surviving it, and being here to still tell my story. Be proud of what I accomplished. Happy 1 year anniversary to me. Hope you guys enjoyed this. It was more for me than it was for anything else. I'm sure there are other people who have had spinal fusion surgeries that might find this, and, you know, I don't know. Maybe it'll help them. If you've made it this far, I applaud you, and thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my story.